What is more important in life than relationships? You can have money, you can have success. How do you enjoy it without a relationship? And I'm not saying everyone should have a romantic relationship, but again, how we treat men in our lives, that spills out into how we would treat a man in a relationship. And so it could be friendships. It could be the relationship between your parent, your uncle, your grandfather. Those relationships are so important. Welcome back to the Before You Do podcast with your host and favorite premarital coach, Verlyn Tarlton. Thank you for joining me today. Do you know that how you treat a man starts way before you get him? Being a wife starts before you become one. And I say that because it's all about mindset. What I see today is a lack of teaching young women how to treat men. And we're going to discuss that today. Before we get started, let's take a moment of joyful gratitude. I give thanks for the rain today that waters the earth and feeds the animals and actually waters my crop. I give thanks for another opportunity, as always, to be with you today in the studio. Give thanks. Where are the big mamas and the aunties and even the moms today? Where are those women that are teaching us how men need and want to be treated? The women are needed. They need to show the younger women how to respect our men, how to nurture and encourage them. I just don't see it today. And it's really quite sad. I learned how to be a lady in my church growing up. We would have these women's meetings, and the men would be in one area and the women would be in another area. So we would be separate and we didn't hear what the other, what was going on in the other meetings. And so I learned in those meetings a lot of good stuff. I learned how to be a lady. We learned things like how we should wear slips so no one would see through our dresses and our skirts. We learned not to be loud and obnoxious, how to not go out with rollers in our hair in public, and how to be home when our husbands came home. Those are some of the things we learned in terms of how to treat a husband. We learned a lot of valuable lessons in these classes, and a lot of them I still hold true today about what it meant to be a lady, not just a woman, but a lady. And it's in that church and in those classes that I learned what class and dignity looked like. And I learned a lot about how a lady conducts herself, whether it's in the home or in public. However, I still had no idea about what men needed, and I didn't know how they should be treated because it wasn't in my home. I didn't see it demonstrated. My parents were married, but they were separated probably before I got into kindergarten. And so I did not see a demonstration of that necessarily. The time that I did see couples in church, I learned some very basic things. It looked like they were happy and the men would have their arms around the women and, they had children and all of that. But I didn't have an auntie or a big mama who sat me down. And I don't mean had like these intense meetings, but, sat down and just chatted, sat on the porch, walked around in the grocery store, went in the garden and just said, hey, let me just tell you, if you want to be successful in a marriage or a relationship, this is what men like. This is what men need. This is what being a lady and a wife is all about, especially in the area of respect. I didn't understand that men and women think differently. So for us, we may crave certain things or need certain things, love, security. But I didn't understand that men want to feel valued. They want to be respected. A lot of things that I projected onto a man or men was what I wanted, but it wasn't what was needed. And so in today's society, you can see the dynamics of what it means when we don't know. We just assume we're going to get together with people and it's all going to work out. And that's not how it actually works. We need Big Mama. We need aunties to sit us down and have light conversations. And most importantly, as young women or younger women, we need to learn how to listen and receive and open up our understanding so that we will be in a position where we learn and we know. So when that man comes along, we will have these lessons and we will be able to carry out what we've been taught. And I say this because I remember years ago, Monique, and I brought this up before, and I'm bringing it up again. The comedian, the actress, talked about how she was in the airport and she saw women with bonnets on, not hats, not wraps, deliberately fashioned or styled, but just a little bonnet you sleep in. And she was like, "Come on, my sweet babies, we can do better," and all of that. And she got so much backlash from something so simple. And I'm like, wow, we're not even in a position where we want to hear how we can do and be better. I mentioned earlier that learning how to treat a man does not start when you get one. How you treat men in your life, that is a reflection of how you're going to treat a man when he comes into your life, whether it's in a relationship or in a marriage. And so when Monique was telling a simple thing, right, about wearing a bonnet, she got so much backlash, which just shows you in our society how we know so little and we think we know so much. And when someone gives us a critique or advice or just shows us a way that we can do and be better, how we get or we give pushback instead of being open to learn. And I'm saying all this to say that we need the big mamas and we need the aunties and even the moms. But most importantly, we need ears to hear what they have to say. We need ears to want to understand and know that we don't know it all and that we have so much to learn because, and I mentioned this as well, our marriage rate in our community, the brown community, is at a low 34% on average. And other cultures are in the 70s and the 90s. There's something missing. There's something terribly wrong when we're not marrying anymore, where we are not getting together and staying together and building together. And perhaps one of the things that we can do as ladies is begin to look at ourselves and take accountability. And when I say accountability, number one, we have not learned how to properly treat our men, or we have not learned how to properly treat men in society as a whole, and it's hurting us. It's coming back to haunt us. And so there are two sides to this coin. If you are an older lady and you are successfully married or successfully navigating a relationship, teach the younger women, the younger girls, even the teenagers that are in your circle, right? In your sphere of influence, whether it's neighbors, your grandchildren, nieces, young women, wherever you worship or fellowship, begin to drop little nuggets. Sometimes, and it's a shame you have to go through all this game playing, but sometimes hearing for some reason is so difficult. And so if you just drop nuggets here and there, but some kind of way, big mamas and aunties and mamas, we have to connect with our young ladies. We have to show them the way and teach them the way so that we can begin to be together again. And if you're a younger lady and you're listening, have ears to hear. Understand that big mama and auntie have some wisdom, hopefully. Unfortunately, we also are in a society where big mamas almost don't even exist because grandmothers are trying to be young again. They're trying to be out and do whatever it is to get a man as well, which is another topic for another day. And the aunties are out doing what they're doing. We just need a full overhaul of our thought process. We need to rethink where we are in society. What is more important in life than relationships? You can have money, you can have success, you can have a bunch of stuff, but how do you enjoy it without a relationship. And I'm not saying everyone should have a relationship and be married like that, a romantic relationship. But again, how we treat men in our lives, that spills out into how we would treat a man in a relationship. And so it could be friendships. It could be the relationship between your parent, your uncle, your grandfather, your male cousins. Those relationships are so important. Relationships help us live in a world and be happy. Relationships are the things that keep us sane. Can you imagine what it would be like if it was just you on this earth, or just you stranded out on an island in the middle of the desert, or just in the woods somewhere with no one to talk to, no one to share ideas, no one to laugh with? No one to tell some silly jokes? Like, relationships are the thing. And that's the one thing you're not taught about relationships in school. We're not taught about relationships around the way, right? That's where we need the big mamas and we need the aunties and we need the moms. I know initially I did not know these things because I was not taught. And so when I had my first daughter, who now is married with children, I didn't teach her these things. Can't go back and change the past, but I can look back and say, okay, I'm going to look forward and do better. And so that's how that cycle goes on. The grandma doesn't teach the daughter, and the daughter has a daughter, and these teachings are lacking. And it's so needed in our community. And so now I have my second daughter. I'm doing a lot better. They say when you know better, you do better. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I have this podcast and this platform to say and to teach all the things that I wish I had known coming up, to say and to teach and to share the much needed lessons and advice that can carry you through and help you to cultivate healthy and happy relationships. How are we going to do this? It starts one person at a time. If you know a young person, a young lady, and you are in a happy, healthy relationships, or you were, maybe you're a widow or whatever, share your knowledge. And if you are a young lady, make sure you find someone to learn from. Each one teach one, right? That's something we say all the time, but are we really doing it? Now's the time that we need to be doing it, ladies. And if you're listening, gentlemen, we need help. We have got to pull this thing together and teach our young ladies how to treat men. We've got a long way to go. One of the ways that we can start is by sharing this podcast. Any podcast that you know that are helpful, but especially this podcast to women who are dating, wanting to get married, even newly married, because it's always so much to learn during that honeymoon phase when things are really exciting, but you're still learning a lot about each other. All right. Thank you for joining today. Before we go, I want to always make sure you know that there are great resources on my website. I have a magazine, I have other digital products that you can download for free. All right. So hop on over to verlyntarlton.com. That's V as in Victor, ERLYN TARLTON.com. If you have a comment, if you have a question, if you have a topic you would like to hear covered, or even if you know someone who would make a really great guest, please share that in the comments. I would appreciate so much if you would like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in. Our mission here on the Before You Do podcast is to help support 1 million women to be and stay happily married, one conversation at a time. Until next week, may you experience extraordinary love. Bye for now.